Okay, go. The moose. Tell me a story about the moose.
Yeah, I was just up in northern Ontario moose hunting.
Where in Northern Ontario?
In Mattawa, which is the north side of Algonquin Park.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
gotcha.
you
Yeah.
can picture Ontario. It's not quite northern Ontario, but you're starting to reach the north. And I'm in the bush with a couple of my Métis buddies, and we just see this beautiful big cow. She turns her head, looks right at us, and we couldn't take her down. She was too beautiful. We decided it's not a bull.
Yeah.
Let's let her live. And
It's funny you say that because I grew up around guns and hunting, growing up in northwestern Ontario around Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
And so I've been around it my whole life, and I just can't bring myself to do it. I have lots of friends that hunt. I'm good with it. No issues, no dramas, but just that was a COVID purchase. Remember we were all stranded at home for a while.
Yeah.
I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this artist, a local Calgary person, and I like her style. I'm like, hey, I like your style. Have you ever done a moose? She's like, no. I can figure it out though. I'm like, cool, yeah, I like moose.
Yeah.
And so she cranked that out a few weeks late, months later or something like that. I wish I could remember her name. And even here, I got a big, massive like skull and moose thing tattooed across my chest. I love it.
Is that right? Yeah. Hey, nice.
I just love it, so I put it out there all the time.
Yeah, I've got two camps that I moose hunt out of. One is near Gogama, which is halfway between Sudbury and Timmins in northern Ontario, and I've got some extended family that have a camp on a lake called Wapajo, which is smack in the middle of Crown land. They managed to get their hands on this parcel in the middle of nowhere from the government. We've been going there for 20 years. We've harvested, 15, 16 moose out of there. And then now my other pal, he's got this camp up in Mattawa, and he took me out there this year, and it's just amazing just to get outside and experience the outdoors. And when you harvest one, it's exciting, and it's great to share in the memories and then the food. But sometimes, like this time, it wasn't right. We were just like, wow, look at that.
But I talked to so many friends about hunting. They said so much about it is like a road trip. It's the walking, the long walks, and the conversations that go along with it, and the heavy breathing, and get your heart pounding, and all that kind of stuff. And that's the memories.
Well, most of the guys I hunt with, they will say that this is their happy place when they're up in the woods and they're away from the hustle and bustle. I hunt with some cops and some firefighters, right? They're exposed to a lot of things, and they get up there, and it's freedom, it's relaxation, it's connection with nature. And I'm the kind of guy that'll walk for, I think, I looked at my steps when I was up in Mattawa. I was doing 18,000, 19,000 steps a day, right? I love it.
Yeah, right on. Where did you grow up?
I grew up as a military brat. I moved around a whole bunch. But I consider Stouffville, Ontario, my home now. It's the longest I've ever lived anywhere.
Do you think you'll stay there?
Who knows? Yeah. That's where my family is, right? My daughters are my home, so they have their school there and their mom there. And
I've talked to so many different military people over the years, including a good friend of mine, and they said it's similar to pipeline, what I do. It turns into a gypsy and you don't even realize it. You can, not that you don't get attached to places, but you find yourself open to moving, excited to move, and able to meet new people a lot easier than others.
Yeah. That's certainly something that's taught me how to connect with people. I remember growing up as a kid, and we'd move from base to base every year. And my mom is francophone; she's French Canadian. My dad's English, and I went to French school. And as a kid, in the early '80s and mid '80s, there was always like this line: the English side and the French side, right? But I was able to navigate both worlds. I don't have a French accent when I speak English, and I don't have an English accent when I speak French, so I can make friends with both sides. And as I grew up and became, started working and meeting other people, it became pretty cool.
But you meet that divisiveness, like it's always been out there, whether it's French English or the Canadian American. Because I've had a few people try to talk to me about the Canada-US thing. I'm like, I get the challenge on both sides, I really do. But I have so much American family on my dad's side, so much on my mom's side. You can't get me involved with hating anyone. I can't. And even when it comes to Quebec, English-French thing, again, so many French friends, been to Quebec, love it. It's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to get away from that divisiveness. Like, how do you get away from it?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think you can get away from it, but it's all about how you decide to show up in the moment when it's present. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've lived in Montreal. Half my family is French Canadian. Mm-hmm. So to me, English, French was always one. It didn't matter, right? I do business. Most of my business, 90% of it, are Americans.
Okay.
I do business with American firms and agencies, and I'm traveling to the U.S. and have been for 2 decades. Yeah. So to me, we're
just people.
We're just people. Yeah. We're humans, and I've had the benefit of traveling the world. I was a flight attendant for a few years. Cool. When I got out of business school. Traveled to India, China, all over Europe, South America, United States, and Canada. And what I see are humans. I don't see political parties or races. Mm-hmm. So, and in my 20s and 30s, I was involved heavily in the rap music business, and so a lot of my friends are black, right? And so to me, it's a confusing thing because I don't get it. I do at the same time, but I don't embrace divisiveness.
I think it's more if you spend time with people. I mean, travel is a great way to open your eyes in terms of realizing people are just people.
Of course.
And it's so funny, we talk about it all the time as friends. Like, it's so easy online. You see these very horrible, I don't want to call them debates online, but they're almost like vitriolic swearing sessions, basically, dehumanizing other people. But if they were sitting next to people, like, you would never in a million years say that.
No. And I've got a mentor who, he talks about perspective. Most people, when there's divisiveness, it's because they're stuck and they're hanging on to one angle. They're hanging on to one perspective, one story. They're holding it as solid, right? Like, this is the way it is. It can't be any other way. But his words really changed the way that I think, because he says that the man who holds the most perspectives holds the most power. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if you can see all the angles and not hold one angle as solid, you have this flexibility and this ability to accept and deal with situations with a higher frequency.
But it takes a bit of, I want to say almost humility to say, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't know everything, Like, I'm 50 now, and without getting into details, even I've been open and found my opinions have changed on a few things softened, and I'm very grateful. Not that they've changed as much as that I found myself still open to it. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's always the case, but I don't know if it is.
I'll give you an example. I just finished writing my first business book.
I saw that, by the way. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So it's out for copy edit, and my daughter, she's 11 years old. All right, she reads a lot. She loves to read English and French books, and even though she reads a lot of fiction, she read the introduction to my book in the first chapter. Okay, and she sat me down, and she said, "Dad, I want to talk to you about your introduction." She says, "You're coming out too hot," and she gave me a whole bunch of feedback and her perspective as to how she feels I should introduce the book. And she explained it very well based on her experience and the ways that she understands how books are written. Dozens of books for an 11-year-old. That's pretty cool, right? And there was a part of me that was like, okay, what's my 11-year-old daughter know about books? But I really dove into her perspective, and it hit me. I was like, oh my God, like, her perspective is valid. It's got a lot of...
But you had to be open to say, maybe she has something.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, the dad in me, the ego side of me was like, no, whatever. But I heard her out, and that night, I sat down. I had to send my book for copy edit the next day. Yeah. I sat down and I rewrote my intro.
Amazing.
And my co-author says, wow, this is beautiful. You did a great job. And had I not been open to that perspective, somebody who has never written a book before, I don't think the introduction would have came out as beautiful as I had wrote it the second time. So being open to different perspectives is a great trait. It's a great skill. And it gives you an advantage.
I love that you shared that. I remember so many years of my life, probably until, I want to say 10 or 15 years ago, I skipped over a lot of those intros. And now I read them all.
Yeah.
Because it really sets up the books.
Yeah.
If you could do me a favor without getting off track, I hope you'll consider turning it into an audiobook.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm like a big audiobook guy. I got onto those years ago. And I don't want to say I'm not great at reading, but between my time and schedule, I find a lot more availability in being able to listen to books and absorb a lot that way. And even for yours, like I would love to listen to it in your own voice.
Yeah, one of the guys who did that right is Alex Hermanson. I don't know if you've listened.
I know Alex really well, really appreciate him, and his wife actually.
Yeah, Layla. Yeah, so huge influence on me.
Yeah. And
he takes the time to record all of his audiobooks in his own voice. Yeah. You don't hear that very often. That's definitely something I'm considering doing. It will be released as an audiobook. It also serves the clients that I deal with because most of them are busy business people. They're on the road. They're in the car all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's perfect for
them. When I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm working out, I'm driving, if I'm in a mindless task, or even just going for a walk. I'll be listening to an audiobook all the time. And I talk about it all the time because I've got other people on it. Because when people turn me on to it, I got excited about it. And so I'm 10 years into it.
Yeah.
My audibles, to tell you a quick story real quick, I remember after a few years of audibles, I was working out of town and Marie phoned me. And we talk all the time. She's like, hey, babe, are we doing okay? I'm like, what's going on here? Like, is there something? Yes, she goes, oh, I was just, looking at your Audibles account, and I noticed there was a lot on relationships and all that kind of oh, my God. And I said, babe, yeah, like I'm just trying to be the best person I can for you.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, if you would do that for me, I would be grateful.
Oh, well, yeah, I will commit to it. Absolutely. Okay. And I think that that's beautiful. That you're leveraging books for personal development and whether it's relationships or business, and how cool is that it was acknowledged and recognized.
Oh yeah, in a very uncomfortable conversation. The way it led up to it, I'm like, oh my God, what's happening right now? Yeah. I've showed my Audibles collection to other people. Everyone's like, this just seems just awful. You have books on productivity and 4,000 weeks and all this. Like, it just seems horrible. Lots of business books. I'm like, yeah, I like what I like, man. Yeah. I don't know. So I guess for people who don't know you, I guess tell us about yourself. You can go back as far as you want to go personally or professionally, because I'm going to dive into some of that stuff after as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I mentioned it before, grew up as an Army brat. Yeah. My father was 35 years Canadian Forces, retired as Chief Warrant of the Canadian Forces Medical School. Amazing. So like that was our life. We grew up on bases. Just my brother and I. He's 2 years younger than me. My mother, she had us very young. She had me at 19, and my dad was in the military. We lived in these PMQs, these military housing. And then she went to school when I was about 6 or 7. She went to university to become a teacher. So then she became a career teacher. Cool. Moved around a lot. Most of my childhood was very positive, right? Okay. Until my mid-teens. Okay. And I started to experience some really traumatic things. And I didn't realize how much of an impact these things had on me until the recent years. That's why I share them. Okay. When I was 15, one of my best buddies was brutally murdered. And it's one of those things where it was shared in the national news. His name was Sylvain Leduc, okay? And Sylvain was captured and kidnapped and tortured and murdered by a couple of guys who are now in jail. But that happened when I just moved away from Ottawa. We were living in Ottawa. We moved to Base Borden, and I get this news. And in those days, I didn't know how to handle it. I don't think my parents knew how to handle it either. And it shifted me. a lot. So I went from being the, pretty much a goody two-shoes kid to causing a lot of trouble and lashing out and partying all the time. And what I realize now is that part of the reason that I started doing all that was just I was numbing out. I was numbing out my feelings because I wasn't encouraged to talk about it or deal with the feelings and emotions were bubbling up inside of me, knowing that my buddy was just murdered brutally and it was all over the news, right? And then in that same year, I had a girlfriend who tried to kill herself. So it was just one thing after the other.
For a young person, too.
Yeah, and I buried those things. And those things being buried created some behaviors that, there were some positive behaviors because it taught, for some reason, one of the things that it created was I numb out through work and ambition and big goals. So, I went to school, studied business, studied culinary. I was in the military for a few years, and then I started my own music business, all while partying way too hard, right? Using a lot of different substances and staying up late. Last one to go to sleep, first one to wake up, type thing. And that carried forward. Even though my career was building, I mentioned I was a flight attendant for a few years, and then I jumped into a sales career. And that sales career was very fruitful. I mean, I learned how to add value at a very deep level and deliver on expectations and be very specific around how I was going to do things, and it became just this learning ground for me. And I worked in logistics, transportation, wholesale distribution, construction manufacturing, and now I run my own coaching business, all because of that. And on the side, I ran a music business all along. Okay, and I'm married. I'm separated now. I have 2 beautiful daughters. And the learnings from the last couple of years are really what's shifted in the way I approach myself. You see me online, and
yeah, very much.
These are all things that I've become clear on in the last 4 years, give or take. And what happened was, in 2021, during COVID, those behaviors of me numbing out were amplified. Okay? I dug deep in my career, but at the same time, we weren't leaving the house. I don't know about you guys. We were living by the rule of the law.
Same as everyone.
Right? And I'd built a garage gym. And what was happening was I was spending so much time by myself, but I was working out 2 to 4 hours a day in the gym, pushing hard, numbing out, working online, doing my corporate stuff, 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever was required of me. And then at night, working another 4 to 6 hours on my music business and being semi-present for my family because I just wasn't handling the whole situation well. And in secret, over drinking and using substances. And it all came crashing down one day because I ended up in the hospital with rhabdomyolysis. So May 2021, it's Mother's Day, and I wake up. My daughter's like, "Daddy, we gotta decorate for Mother's Day," and I couldn't even stand up. I couldn't lift my arms. I was in excruciating pain. I didn't understand what was going on. I went to the bathroom, and I was pissing black like Coca-Cola. And I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my God. So I toughed it out. My daughter's like, "Dad, what's going on?" She was only, 7 or 8 at the time. I said, "Don't worry, we're going to decorate." I got up. I pushed through it. We decorated. I reached out to a friend. He's like, "Dude, I think you have rhabdomyolysis from overtraining and being dehydrated or something." Because it's common in athleticism, especially in CrossFit. But this was a severe case. So I go to the hospital, and I'm in there for 5 nights. It was full lockdown. doctors coming in hazmat. The 2 rooms beside me were COVID patients, right? I couldn't see my family. They couldn't even bring like food or anything. Like it was pretty scary. I had my own private room, and I was left alone with me, myself, and I. So much was, passing through the brain, going, is this it? Because there was a fear that my kidneys were going to fail, that I'd need a dialysis. There was a fear that I might die, because when you get rhabdomyolysis, what it is the creatinine levels in your bloodstream are really high, and the molecule is very big, and it can't pass through your kidneys. Okay, and that happens when it happens in 2 scenarios. One, your body is severely dehydrated, and you've overstressed your muscles to the point where the muscle breakdown has come to a point where it's increases, like your fibers are dying. Okay? So you do that to yourself. A lot of ultra marathoners, extreme athletes get it, and sometimes CrossFitters and other sports. And the second one is when you get into a car accident and a muscle gets crushed. Okay? That's when it leaks into your bloodstream. So when I got to the hospital, they're like, we've never seen this before in somebody who didn't get in an accident. Like, this is pretty unique. So they didn't know. And every day my levels were increasing. So a lot of fear and a lot of thinking. And when I got out of there 5 days later, I had so many realizations. I had realized, I remembered Sylvain Leduc. I had buried that memory for almost 30 years. I remembered what happened with my girlfriend at the time. And it was like, holy cow, like the way that I was showing up in life for the last 20, 30 years just stared right at me and said, is this the version of you that you want to be? And I went home, and my wife was scared shitless, right? She's like, this can never happen again. And I said, don't worry, it won't. But of course, she's like, well, the proof will be in the pudding, right? Yeah. Right? And I just started to shift my mindset. I said, I don't know where to start here, but I'm going to start with simple, healthy habits and routines, right? I'm going to get up early. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to drink a lot more water. I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit drugs. I'm going to just kind of one thing at a time. And one of the things I implemented was cold plunging. I'm going to cold plunge every day, right? And over time, these habits started to shift the version of me that I was. And I wanted to share the story. I started posting online about it. I was bored during COVID, and I was like, well, let's do this. And people started reaching out because there was a lot of struggle in those times, and people had heard about what happened, and they're like, hey, man, like, what can I do to help myself? And I said, well, here's how I meditate. Here's some resources, or here's my morning routine, right? And over time, it became a business. People are like, wow, I want you to help me at a deeper level. I was like, cool, I'll be your habits coach, right?
Awesome.
So I started doing that. And a year later, I realized that my music business wasn't aligned with who I wanted to be anymore. And I'd been doing that for 20 years, which was my side hustle, right? And so I let go of that part of me. And that was hard, because 20 years in the music industry, toured, I've released beautiful, tons of music. I've produced for awesome artists. I even secured a licensing deal in a Sprite commercial with LeBron James. Like, there's some big things happening, right? And then one day I'm like, I gotta let this go because it doesn't serve me anymore. And I cried. It was like losing a girlfriend or But that opened a lot of space for me to explore what version of me I want to be. And along that journey, I met, or I heard about a men's group called Man on Fire. Okay, and I went online, and I talked to these guys, and they're like, "You should come and join us in New York. We got this event. We feel it's a good fit for you." And I went to this 4-day immersion, And it changed me. I was like, oh my God, because they really set the stage and put you in an environment where you're forced to look inside of you and listen to your inner voice and put away what's happening up here and realize how you've been showing up and how you want to show up and what do you need to do to become that man, that version, that leader that you want to be. And it was life-changing. I came back and it shifted a lot of things inside of me. And then around that time, I realized, man, like I'm taking this coaching thing way more seriously. Corporate life doesn't serve me anymore. And, you know, move down the road here from 21 to now, and I run my own coaching business. It's very successful. I've helped hundreds of leaders, in particular in the manufacturer's rep space, over the last couple of years. It's growing. I'm scaling. I'm hiring people, and it's an incredible journey so far. And I've been living a healthy, sober lifestyle for a couple of years now, and inspiring. And then it just makes me feel good to be alive.
So what was the catalyst? Was it the COVID health incident? Was it the man on fire? Like, you had to be open to changing, because, you know, we've all gone to good, you know, public speakers where we come out of there just fired up.
Yeah.
And then by the next day, sometimes you almost default back to your original position. What changed in your instance?
Yeah, it was a series of events. There was multiple things, and it was like the timing and sequence were just, you know, the universe handed them to me, right? So it started with the health incident, and then after COVID, my relationship with my wife was on the rocks, right? And we were doing things like therapy, and the therapist is the one who recommended I do men's group stuff. And then Man on Fire, that men's group, which I'm still a part of today.
Amazing.
And you know, that took things to another level, and then it just escalated from there. But the turning point, the first glimpse of it was that health incident.
That Man on Fire, I'm sure that's what it is. I was looking at an event. A guy I know in Ontario, Dan Kaminsky, he was going to go to an event out in Edmonton. I think it was in October, and then it got cancelled. So I've been following that group. I don't know much about them, but you're the second person who's brought it up to me, so I'll definitely check into it. Yeah,
so there's a gentleman by the name of David Mueller. He created this Man on Fire group. He lives out in California. He's born in New York. He's a New Yorker. But he's a chiropractor. Okay. And what he practices, this stuff blows my mind, okay, is that he practices what's called NSA, Network Spinal Analysis, okay? So he's an expert in understanding how our traumas, emotions, energy is stored in our spinal cord. Okay, so, you know, when you're feeling down and out, what's your posture like, right?
For sure.
You're kind of like this, right? But when you're feeling proud and energized, you're standing up straight. So he also realized that, because him and his wife are also very spiritually aligned, and they're very knowledgeable. They understand relationships and how and the dynamics of emotion between the masculine and the feminine, and it's really eye-opening. So he combines the NSA practices with men's masculine leadership and spirituality.
Cool.
So it's really outstanding, and I've been with them now for going on 3 years. And the last trip I took was in October, and a group of us went to Sedona, Arizona, right into the Red Rocks, okay? And we were getting up every morning, 4 a.m., hiking up these mountains, 3,000 feet up, and then meditating, watching sunrises, and sharing about, you know, what's going on for us, where do we want to be. And a lot of these men who are part of this program, very successful, you know, they're all men who've had this sort of awakening, right, and know that they need a community to lift each other up. You got guys who are CEOs of companies that you'd be surprised, like, you know, the companies, right? Business owners, entrepreneurs, RCMP guys. Like, it's really cool. It's really cool.
Was there younger guys in these groups as well?
Every now and then you see a young guy in his 20s, right? But most of the group, they're mid 40s up.
And that's what I would think. So the only reason I say that is because even in my own life, you know, once you get into whatever age, 35, 40, whatever age, that you start to really know who you are. And I don't want to call it a midlife crisis because that's not the right word, but you do start to sometimes look a bit deeper for the first time, I think. That's what I'd like to know about that group.
We can call it a midlife crisis. We can call it a situation that, right? Yeah. It's the same for my clients in my business. I do leadership coaching. Most of the time, most of the clients I serve are between the age of 35 and 55. They're at a point in their business where they've been doing something a certain way for so long. The behaviors, the patterns, the routines that they have, they recognize are not getting them to where they need to be. Something has to change. And something happens in their business that's devastating, you know, it has huge consequences on them, and then they're seeking help. Right? That's where I come in. It's the same thing. So these men and Man on Fire, something happened in their personal lives or in their business, and boom, they find it, and it's a perfect fit. And same with my clients. So.
I like how on, not just in social media, but even in my own industry, probably yours as well, where this idea of men's mental health is becoming more of a conversation. And I love that it's getting out there. I know people still struggle on a personal level. We're all okay talking about men's mental health challenges. But when it comes to us sharing, so obviously it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But I love that this conversation is getting out there. And I don't know is it because of social media, but the real business community. Again, I work in pipeline, so I look at a lot of these different companies are investing more into this issue. We don't know why this issue is there, but they have all the statistics to support challenges, whether it's suicide or whatnot, to go with men. And I love that. Are you seeing the same thing on your side? Because I know you coach a variety of different businesses.
Yeah, I mean, men's mental health is certainly becoming a topic where more people are feeling comfortable discussing and receiving. And I think it has to do with the times, right? The newer generations are a lot more open about their emotions and stuff like that. And it's not the fault of our fathers or our grandfathers. I mean, they were a product of their environment, and we were never taught how to process our emotions, or because they weren't either. I look at how this string of events happens in my personal life. My dad grew up in a household with 4 siblings and his mom, and his dad was always he worked on the dredgers in the dredging boats, so he was always in Nova Scotia, and they lived in Cornwall, right? And Dad came home every other weekend for the weekend, and that was it, right? So, and then my father was military, and he was on the road all the time. He was, overseas doing military missions, and I saw him every 6 months for most of my childhood. And then I think about me, I repeated the same pattern. I became a salesman on the road that traveled all across North America and was home on the weekends, right? And it was just the way that we showed up. But at the same time, anytime that we had traumatic situations, and I'll go back to my experience with my friend who was murdered, it was just suck it up. Like, it didn't happen, right? There's an old term that I used to use called "suck it up, buttercup," right? Boys don't cry. Yeah. And what we're seeing now is a shift where, oh my gosh, emotions are normal in every human being, whether you're a man. Women are more emotional. They know how to express it. They're a lot more comfortable doing it. And now there's that tie between the epidemic of male suicide and male drug use, that it has a lot to do with emotional immaturity, right? We don't know how to handle ourselves in these situations, so we turn to things that are either going to numb it or make it go away, right? So there's an openness to recognize that now and acknowledge it. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Have you thought about how you will help support your own daughters navigate some of these issues? Because again, you've had to go through them, and then you realize, okay, well, I didn't have the tools as a younger person, and I would argue most people would not have had the tools to go through what you went through at that age.
Yeah.
But even nowadays, now that you've gone through, how are you able to help navigate some of these issues with your own daughters?
The most powerful way is to truly listen. You know, it's, hey, I'm developing this skill now where I can feel things. I can feel other people's emotions. I can, or at least I can sense that there's something there. Whereas before I was oblivious to it, right? And when I notice my daughters are struggling with something, or there's some additional emotion, and I'm not perfect at this, I'm still learning, but the way I want to help navigate through it is to be present for them, acknowledge them for what they're feeling as being like normal. Like, feelings are feelings, whether they're good or bad. They're chemical responses in our bodies that are going to occur, and you know, who's to say that being sad is not equal to being happy, right? But at the same time, we label sad as being bad, right? So acknowledging them, listening to them, and when I say acknowledge, it's not just saying, "Oh, I hear you," because people want to feel seen and heard, right?
It's just a human need.
It's a human need, right? And I know that in my relationship, I was terrible at that. You know, my ex-wife used to tell me, you know, you don't hear me, you don't see me, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're right here, right? Of course I do. But now I get it. It was, oh my gosh, I'm not demonstrating to her that I can feel what she's feeling, and I understand it because I can explain it, right? So my daughters are going to see a different version of me where, oh my gosh, I can imagine how that feels going through this particular situation. It must feel like this, this, and this. I can understand why that would be so hard for you, right? And then just be there, just be present, you know, and not try to solve the problem. And I think that's a big thing in with men in particular, is that we're problem solvers, right? We're more of a logical creature by nature. So we think that we're doing people a favor by trying to solve problems, and then when that doesn't work, our ego comes into play, and then we're harder on ourselves. So there's this crazy catch-22 that happens, right? It's like this
almost cliche the way we talk.
Yeah. So
with the nail in the head sweater video, or do you remember that one?
Yeah. So the way I want to help my daughters is to really show up for them. And what I mean by that is how I just explained it.
Yeah. Like when even at work, I have this idea about parent leadership, and I always bring it up all the time in the workplace because, you know, I'm at the age where I look at a lot of these young workers out there in the field, so I try to bring everyone together once a month into the yard, buy them lunch and blah, blah, blah. But I see these kids, they're like the same age as my kids. And I know I'm not their dad, I'm not trying to be their dad, but like I feel that sometimes about them, and I don't know how to, I've always been interested, how do I bridge that gap between being a parent and being a leader? I know they're similar, they're not the same, but there's so many overlaps. And I think some of the things that I've watched you share and the videos you've shared and the posts, I think you touch on a lot of those leadership things.
Yeah. I always say that, you know, somebody reached out to me recently and said, hey, Chris, I know you do leadership coaching, but I'm having this issue in my relationship with my husband, and I just want to know if I'm right or if I'm wrong, because he's handling situations in his business, and he's being an ear to a bunch of women in his space, and it actually hurts my feelings, she said. And I'm like, look, I said, I'm not a therapist, all right? but it does sound like it's a boundary issue, right? And I really hope that the two of you can work it out.
Yeah.
He's certainly not. There's no boundary being created, and when I think of leadership, and whether that's parenting leadership, or business leadership, or sports leadership, whatever it is, we want to help people, right? But we always got to make sure that there's a clear boundary. Like, at what level do we help people?
Yeah.
Right? And especially with kids.
Oh, yeah. But it's hard for leaders, especially if you're personality. If you're like a giver by nature, it's tough to leave gas in the tank some days for your own self and your own family. And but again, like I said, that's a boundary people need to set up for themselves. Without changing gears too dramatically, one thing I've been following you lots about is the time management. You always talk about that. That always comes up. How does that play into what you do as a business, your coaching style, your message? How important is time management to people?
Time management is the biggest challenge most leaders face in any business, right? We all have the same amount of finite hours in a day. And depending on how you're deciding to spend that time, keyword deciding how to spend that time, it's going to dictate what you're going to get done, who you're going to impact, what results you're going to get. So time management is one of the top things that I coach on a regular basis. And it's not necessarily about time management, it's about priority. One of the reasons most leaders struggle with priority and time management, particularly when they have large teams, is that they feel that they need to get things done on their own, right? Yeah. So you might see this in your business where, something pops up, it's small, right? And you should absolutely delegate it, right? But then you decide to do it yourself because you can do it faster than everybody else because you've done it a million times before, and it's no sweat off your back. But if you do that 4, 5, 6 times a day, it compounds and you start losing time, right? There are tools that you can apply. There are systems that you can leverage to maximize the amount of time you're using to get the biggest impact out of your day, all right? And the key here is that you understand what are the most important tasks that you do on a daily basis that are going to drive the highest ROI in the business, right? And you need to list those out. You absolutely have to list those out. But you also have to list out all the tasks that you're doing that are important, you catch yourself doing, but they don't have the highest impact on the business. And then you have to list out what I call the sand, all of the tasks that you're doing that, you know what, for the sake of an argument, are $10 tasks versus $10,000 tasks, okay? And then you can start weeding through it. But if you're in the mindset of, you need validation, or you want to be the hero in your business, or you're the do-it-all kind of guy or gal, the first step is understanding that piece. It's like, hey, where's my ego coming into play here? Where am I? Why am I doing all these things? Is it because it really needs to be done by me?
Or we're all guilty of it a
right?
little bit, yeah.
Or is it because, you know what, I want to feel good about myself, right? So there are tools to help navigate the limiting beliefs, the factors that are holding you back from creating time for yourself that you want to work through. And then there are tools to identify all the tasks you're doing, and then creating the space to do all of the really important things first, and then figuring out how do you treat those tasks that are eating up your time, that aren't having the big impact. How do you treat them differently? And there's easy ways to do that. There's delegation. There's hiring an assistant. There's eliminating them altogether. Right?
For sure. Even delegating, I think that's a skill set people need to learn. Because it doesn't come naturally to people.
No, because most people feel that they can do it better than anybody else. It happens to me. One of my mentors asked me recently, he said, Chris, what's the next step in your business? And I said, one of the next steps in my business is hiring other coaches to help deliver this framework so we can help more people. And he says, well, why haven't you done that yet? And I said, I can't find the right people. He says, no, what's the real reason? And the real reason, Dave, is that
you don't want to give it up.
I'm afraid that if I hire people to do it, that they're not going to be able to do as good a job as me. And he said, you're right, they might do it better. Right?
Interesting.
So everyone has these limiters inside of us and this is why it's important to have really good coaching, right? To help catch those blind spots. Right?
Oh, for sure. I'm a big proponent of mentoring. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Said, like, if you don't have a mentor, why don't you start by trying to be a mentor for someone else, someone that you might have needed as a younger guy.
Yeah.
And you'll find it a very good learning opportunity and experience to learn a lot about yourself. Yeah. But I think we all need mentors, for sure.
Absolutely. We all need mentors. And one of the things, I did this to one of my clients the other day. It makes me laugh because he's telling me, I'm so busy, my head's spinning, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. And I said, show me your calendar. And he pops up his calendar and there's 2 meetings in there the whole week. And I said, dude, how can you tell me that you're busy? He's like, well, it's all written down in my notebook. I have my to-do list. And I said, well, yeah, but you're not structured. You're not organized. So of all these to-do lists, and I'll give you what I call the ABCDE method right now. Anything on your to-do list that is of great importance, that has consequences, severe consequences if you don't do them, mark an A beside them. Anything that is important but doesn't have severe consequences, put a B beside them. Anything that is a nice to have. You know what? Painting the walls or put a C beside it. Anything you can delegate, put a D. Anything that's been on there for 3 months, put an E beside it, eliminate it, get rid of it. All right? Now, take a look at those A's. And those A's, those require focus. Go into your calendar and book time to do it, right? And I'll hold them on the spot and be like, when are you going to do that over the next 3 weeks? Here, 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 here. Perfect, lock it in, right? And then make sure that you stick to it. But there's one caveat, and that is that when we're busy and we're feeling overwhelmed, most of the time it's because we're not managing our capacity properly. We're not managing our energy. So what happens is you do the easy things first because they feel good, they're hits, and then those important things hit the back burner. And then you dread doing them because you've already wasted a bunch of your energy during the day and you end up pushing it back and you procrastinate it further. So you want to be thoughtful as to when you put them in your calendar. You want to put them at times when you're going to be fully sourced, when your energy is going to be perfect for that sort of task. So think about that and then put those in the calendar. And if they're ongoing things, create structure around them and a routine.
So when you're talking to people, like, is this some of the system that you're trying to teach them?
I teach them this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when they're doing these tasks, I even teach them how to go a level deeper so they get the most focus out of their time that they're scheduling for themselves. So if you've got a big project, give me an example of a project that would require you to really sit down and dig deep on for a couple of hours.
Even like a monthly report, if we're in the middle of a construction job, although a lot of the, the money, the safety, the environment, all that's done by the discipline leads. You basically putting my arms around and consolidating to a digestible report for not just our leadership, but even the client leadership. Yeah,
so reporting, right? There's 4 things that every leader is responsible for, right? They're responsible for their people. They're responsible for reports. They're responsible for systems and strategy, okay? So reporting's a big one, right? And we often wait till last minute to do reports, right? It's like, I'll get to it. So what you want to do is you want to schedule recurring time to do your reports. put it at a time that's your energy is going to be perfect for it. Okay, maybe you're a morning person, maybe you are a night person. Who knows, right? But lock it in, and then use what's called the Pomodoro technique.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Yeah, so the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro means tomato in Italian. All right, a technique where you use a 25-minute timer, and 5-minute breaks. You're doing these reports. You know it takes you about 2 hours to get through them. Okay. Block the 2 hours off, put some focus music on, like lo-fi beats or something, nothing with lyrics, okay?
I listen to classical music.
Classical music is perfect, right? Turn all of your notifications off, close your inbox, turn your phone upside down. If you're in the office, put a sticky note on the door, do not disturb. You have every right as a leader to do that, right? Because open door policy, you're going to get disrupted. But do yourself a solid and put a do not disturb. And then set the timer for 25 minutes and go hard. Race the clock.
I like it.
And work on the report. When the timer goes off, set a 5-minute timer. Step away from the laptop. Don't go looking at your inbox. Don't look at your phone. Okay? Go grab a coffee or a tea or a water. Use the restroom. And come back and then do it again. Do another 25-minute run. And if it takes you 2 hours, you do 4. But never do more than 4 in a row. Okay? And the reason for this is that there are studies that show that your focus capabilities in your brain, there's like a ceiling to it, right? So you can only focus on one thing with 100% capacity for a maximum of 25 minutes at a time.
Interesting.
So you do that, and then you take a 5-minute break, making sure that you're not getting distracted. That's the key. You have to have the discipline to not look at your phone or your inbox, because then you just end up in a rabbit hole, right? But that 5 minutes serves as a top-up of energy and of capacity. And then you can dive right back in.
That'll be my takeaway for today. I'm going to try that. I keep seeing these things on Instagram, these little timers.
Yeah.
And I see people look at, but I've never really dug into it. But it must be something that you're talking about.
Yeah. It's a productivity hack. It's a peak performance method for sure. Yeah.
Well, I won't keep you too long today, but I'd like for you to share any final words you have. And please, we're going to share a little bit about your business and the verbiage when we do all the posts and stuff.
Yeah.
But any final words for me, the industry I work in, there's a lot of people out there struggling right now, Chris, because it has been a bit of a downturn in our industry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of political divisiveness between East-West right here in Canada related to, again, the industry I work in. How do you give people some words of encouragement that they will get through it, it will get better, we're going to be okay? What would you say to those people?
Yeah. And I feel for everyone who's struggling right now. It is Men's Mental Health Month, right? And when you've got an industry like oil and gas that has been so impacted by everything, there's a lot of people who are hurting and struggling right now. Everything's going to be okay is standard verbiage. We can certainly say, "Don't worry, man. Everything's going to be okay." There's power in community, guys, right? I shared my story about joining Man on Fire, right? You've got this hat, self, family, community. One of the reasons people suffer, and we hear it all the time, is that they suffer in silence, right? So find yourself a group of men, of like-minded men who are striving for greatness, that want to change the world and speak your language, and get together with them on a regular basis. And don't just talk about sports and all the things that are standardized in our society. Talk about what you're dealing with, and talk about where you want to be, and share. Be vulnerable. This is something that I did not do for the majority of my life, was be vulnerable. And I have this openness now that created such a great sense of freedom. And I know it sounds easier said than done, but find somebody who makes you feel comfortable being. And know that the more you take care of yourself, the better off you're going to be. So practice those healthy habits. Get some exercise. Drink water instead of beer. Meditate. Try meditation for the first time. Go to a yoga studio and practice that. Try something different, right? and learn that there is power in stillness. Silence and stillness are two different things. You struggle in silence because you're overthinking and your thoughts are controlling the narrative. Stillness is about being good with oneself. And that takes a lot of practice, right? But once you get it, it's one of the greatest acts of self-love you can give yourself, right? And the last thing I want to say is that you don't own your thoughts. Your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts are just a radio wave on the radio station, right? And we're just being blasted with so much negativity in the news and all this polarity with politics and all this stuff that you don't have to think about that stuff. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, you know, when I was going through depression or struggling with anxiety, that got a grip of me. I totally empathize with that. But then I realized that I can quickly, through sobriety, taking care of myself, being more grounded, practicing meditation, getting enough sleep, decide what to think about. So the moment that something crosses my mind, I can say, hey, keep going that way. And I'm going to actually think about my kids, or I'm going to think about something that lifts me up. Because you can choose the radio station.
I like it.
You have the power to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.